Welcome. I'm Roger Bodwin, the president of Restaurant Rockstars. I'm a former 23-year founder, operator, restaurateur of multiple concepts, as well as a customer. So I'm pleased to be partnering with restaurant equippers to help their customers, you, succeed and have a more profitable restaurant operation. With that, I'm going to share my screen and move on with the webinar. Just make it large so you can see it. So, this is all about 3 ways to maximize your restaurant profit. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in this business for 23 years. I founded 5 high volume concepts, which I have now sold. I'm also the host of the weekly Restaurant Rockstars podcast. I'm a personal restaurant coach. I'm the founder of the Restaurant Academy, which I'll tell you more about later, as well as the Sales Stars Staff Training Program creator. I've authored a couple of books, including Rock Your Restaurant, a game-changing guide to restaurant finances. And I'm also the co-founder and a vice president and CFO of a technology company called Hospitality Innovation Labs. So it's all about systems. Now, when I ran restaurants and owned them, I was obsessed with service, brand building, and maximizing profit. And those were the keys to my success. I'm proud to say that my restaurants had double the net profit of the average full serve restaurant in this country. And I created an iconic brand that still dominates the competition 30 years after I founded it. And I'm a customer now just about every weekend at this restaurant. And believe it or not, I had staff that worked for me for 23 years. They worked for me 18 years, 15 years, and some of them are still there 30 years later. And I go in there and it's like family, and there's lots of hugs all around. And I see my former staff shine and the customers in this restaurant continuing to have great dining experiences. As a personal coach, I ask a couple of questions. When I first meet an owner or a general manager, I ask them a question. What business are you in and what are you selling? Now, this is not a trick question, but as you can imagine, the answer I hear most often is I'm a restaurant owner or a GM and we sell food and drink. And I stop them right there and I say, when I ran restaurants, I was not in the business of running a restaurant. I was in the business of running a business, and those are two different things. And my products were not food and drink. They were entertainment, consistency, and a whole lot of good times. And that made all the difference for me. Now, a lot has changed since the pandemic. Before the pandemic, you could be the boss and you could tell people what to do, and that's called delegation. But since the pandemic, we've had labor shortages and we've had challenges getting the best people, motivating the best people. So it's really all about being a leader, not the boss, leading by example and empowering your staff. Anyone can be promoted to manager or hold that title, but that doesn't mean that they're competent to lead, that they inspire others to best performance. And delegation, anybody can tell someone what to do or even how to do it, but empowering people is all about leading by example, recognizing talent and something special in your people, giving them opportunities to move up in your organization, take on additional responsibility, and then recognizing and rewarding optimum performance, giving them room to make mistakes and even fail, and nurturing them along the way. And that develops amazing people. And then, of course, the recognition and rewards have to be part of it as well. And this is called creating a company culture versus having a mission statement. But first, everyone has good people in their business. And those good people, I call them the A players. You wish you had 20 more of them, but you don't want them to leave because they think the grass is greener at someone else's restaurant. You got to keep your good people happy. Well, how do you do that? You give them a voice. Now, everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to know that their opinion matters and that as the leader in your organization, their opinion is important to you because you understand that they have ideas and that they see things every single day and that they're in a position to improve your business. Now, you'll see on the screen MMDD. I wish I thought of this, but I think it's genius. I was on the road at a speaking gig and someone approached me and they said, we've got this thing called MMDD. I'm like, what's that? They're like, made my day difficult. How does it work? I said. They said, well, people can anonymously leave a note in a suggestion box that says MMDD on it, or they can email me personally and let me know this is their concern. Made my day difficult. At the end of every shift, if something made your day challenging and you needed it solved and it would improve the business, bring it to my attention and we'll fix it. And I thought that was great. Flexibility is very, very important. Everyone has a life outside your restaurant, and it's even challenging now more than ever to give people that flexibility. But know that people have the unexpected happen. They have childcare issues, they have doctor's appointments, and that's where cross training comes in. Now, I cross train my team to do multiple jobs, and that way, when someone had an unexpected issue in their life, or they had the flu or whatever it was, I could call on other people on call to jump into that position. Now, some people would say, oh, that costs a lot of money. I don't have time to train people, or I don't have the money to train people. And I said, wait a minute, it's not a cost, it's an investment that will pay dividends. And for us, it always paid dividends. I had such amazing staff that I had dishwashers that could be fry cooks, and I had hosts that could bus, and I had servers that could bartend, and you get the idea. And yes, there was an investment up front, but it really paid off over time and right off the bat, actually. Incentivizing people for meeting goals. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but you have to give people merit raises when they deserve it. And it's not just, well, I've worked here for 5 years, so give me a raise. No, do you deserve it? Have you earned it? Have you gone above and beyond your job? And then incentivizing people, giving them bonuses and certain incentives. I'll talk more about that as well, for doing an amazing job and for meeting certain goals. And then finally, fix what's broken. Here's an example. I bought a restaurant just before the pandemic. That was my final concept. And, whenever a restaurant sells and the owner moves on, the staff get really kind of squirrely and a little concerned, because people are creatures of habit. They don't necessarily like change. And they're thinking, oh, what's this guy going to do? He's going to turn everything upside down. Is this person a jerk? Because we're used to working with our owner. We even like the former owner. I wanted to set everyone's mind at ease. So I sat down and I interviewed every single person as I was purchasing this restaurant, just one on one. And I introduced myself and I told them, what I had done and what my restaurants were and what my plan was for this restaurant and how they were going to be involved in it and what, our culture was going to be like. And then I said, tell me, what's broken? What makes your life difficult here? And they sing like canaries. And I've always known that you don't ask, you don't get. But if you involve your people and say, what's broken, they'll tell you. So right off the bat, I had a baker, and she had to come in early every morning and make this huge batch of cinnamon, these giant cinnamon buns. They were amazing. And she also had to make so many muffins every single day, fresh for the public, because they were super popular. And she's like, we've got this 60-quart dough mixer, and sometimes it works perfectly. And then other times I'm in the middle of a dough batch and it just stops working, and I got to kick it or juggle the plug or something and to get it going again, and it's a real hassle. We fixed the mixer. I had a kitchen staff, and they said the kitchen is so hot, there's no ventilation, we're on our feet for 6 7 hours, and there's no rubber mats. We ventilated the kitchen. We brought in air conditioning. We cooled things off. We brought in rubber mats on the floor, and we went so far as to buy them those really comfortable Skechers shoes. This is how you fix what's broken. And if productivity and morale doesn't go way up, if they think you're listening and you care and you want their jobs to be easier, more productive, more fun, that's what it's all about. Okay, recruiting, don't hiring. Now, we can drive down any street in America and you're going to see the signs in the windows and even on the flags and on signs, now hiring. And we're paying the highest wages now we've ever had to pay, especially in the kitchen. But what you're going to get, if you get anyone at all, is someone else's headache, someone's C player, someone who shows up just for the paycheck, calls in sick. You don't need this. They're not doing your business any favors. They're not delivering amazing experiences to your guests. They don't care about quality. So just know that the best hires are employee referrals. Okay. Now, a long time ago, I started my first restaurant, and there was a hotel in my town that was coming in, and it was opening, grand opening, right around the same time I'm opening my restaurant. And they needed everything. They needed valet parkers, and they needed housekeepers and bartenders and servers and bussers, and maintenance people. It's like, I'm thinking, how am I possibly going to find 25 people to staff my restaurant when they're hiring everybody? Well, I recruited. And what does that mean? Well, I had one A player that I hired right off the bat. And I said to her, do you know anyone like yourself who might not be happy in a current job, that is looking for something different, something new? We're going to build a culture here. It's going to be really based on teamwork and respect. We're going to have fun. We're going to have incentives. We're going to have contests. You bring me someone like that, and I'm going to pay you $100 referral fee if they last here for 60 days. And I knew we were going to train them, and we were going to, give them all the opportunities that I talked about. And then I said, if that person lasts 60 days, I'm going to give that person $200. Now, 30 years ago, that seems like it was a lot of money, and it kind of was. But I knew then, as I know now, that the turnover rate in restaurants is huge, and that every time you lose someone, you hire someone, you either have to fire them or they quit, and they only last for a couple of months, like 2, 3, 4 months. It costs you thousands of dollars to replace that person, bring somebody new in, and then get them up to speed in the job. Lost time, wages, productivity. No restaurant can afford that. So a couple $100 here and then develop those people is recruiting. Now check out this website, employer.gotlanded.com is national, and they are specializing in hospitality recruiting for all jobs. So they might be coming to your state, but it's worth checking out. Now, here's another genius idea I wish I thought of: guest referrals. Now, there's a chain of restaurants in Southern California. This started during the pandemic, and they're open literally 3 day parts a day. They're open breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, 28 locations. You think they had a staffing challenge back then? They absolutely did. Well, they came up with the idea that they were going to give gift cards to their best customers for new employee referrals. And they said, okay, here's a reasonable trial period. If you send us someone who, again, lasts for 60 days and does a great job, we're going to give you a $250 gift card. Well, that was huge. But as you know, it's literally your food cost. It's pennies on the dollar. It does not cost you $250 in cash. If your food cost is 28%, it's 28 cents on a dollar. And if you get a great hire, that was a great way to go. So amazing idea there. Reasonable trial period again, and then give your guests that gift card. Now, internal marketing is something that a lot of restaurants just don't take advantage of. Think about the four walls of your restaurant and all the places you have to post messages or giant chalkboards, bulletin boards in the bathrooms, table tents if you have them. These are all ways that you can announce this program that you're looking for good people, and also on your menus, perhaps. So recruit, don't hire. Okay, I'm talking about the company culture. In my restaurants, all of them, our company culture was hospitality, family, and fun. Because hospitality is the foundation of our business. You know, I learned a long time ago that hospitality is absent when something happens to the guest. Hospitality is present when something happens for the guest. See the difference? So we're all about hospitality. I wanted my guests to feel like family. I wanted my team to feel like family, and we wanted everyone to have more fun. And that upraised the morale in the business. Job descriptions are vitally important, and I've got a turnkey template that I'll tell you about later for the perfect job description. But that leads to accountability. If you do not have job descriptions now in your business, you need to have them, because so many people come to me and they say, oh, why don't people show up on time? Why don't they meet my expectations? Why do they do what they do? Because you never established accountability. You never set a high standard and a bar. You never made it crystal clear to your people what the expectations were and that there would be consequences for not meeting those expectations. Therein lies the job description, where everybody knows what they're being held responsible for, and they even sign off on it. And now you've got a record that says, I understood that this was my job. I understood what the expectations were. And then you call them into your office in private, because you never criticize. Well, bosses criticize, leaders critique, and you see the difference there. But never do that in public, always do it in private. But here's the key: a boss in the old days would say, now get out there and do it the right way, do what I expect. That's barking an order. A critique is, this is what you said you understood that you could do. These were the standards. What can you do to get back on track? And then you sit back and you wait for the answer. And then you know they're going to have to go back out there and do things the right way, because one, they know you're going to be watching, and two, they don't want to be called on the carpet again. That's accountability. You have to be fair and impartial, treat everyone the same. Now, The 1 Minute Leader is a book that I read a long, long time ago, and I ran my businesses for 30 years using a simple concept. Now, it's called the 1 Minute Manager, but I like to call it the 1 Minute Leader because I hate the word manager. You can see I've crossed out that word manager and I wrote in leader. This is how this works. It's a simple read. I recommend it to everyone. It's less than 100 pages. Every page is not super wordy. You can blow through it in a really quick time. But it goes like this: you catch someone doing something amazing or right the correct way, meeting your standard in your business, and you simply praise them. Now, that's just the title of the book, 1 minute. It doesn't have to be 60 seconds. It can be 5 second pat on the back. Hey, Jim, great job. Thanks for doing that. That's exactly the way we work here. Okay. And then I mentioned when you notice something going sideways off the job description or just something that isn't quite right, you pull people aside in private and now you give them the 1 minute critique. 5 second critique, 10 seconds, or something more elaborate if it's a little bit more offense. But that's that concept, and it's worked great for me for 30 years. Okay, make it fun, keep it fun. Here's some recognition and rewards programs. Now, you can come up with your own or even a variation on these, but let me tell you about difference dollars. Every single week in my restaurants, in some restaurants I had 30 employees, and some I had 55 employees, but I wanted everyone to participate in this program. So I did this every Friday and every Saturday before the doors opened for business. I would gather everyone around either in the kitchen or in the dining room, and everybody knew it was difference dollars. Here's how it worked. And this week's winner is Sally Johnson. And this is, I'd get up on my soapbox and I would praise Sally Johnson for doing something amazing, something extraordinary, solving a guest problem or helping out a teammate, whatever it was. Maybe I recognized that person and nominated them, or any of my team could say, they'd knock on my door at any time. I always had an open door policy because I knew my people were the foundation of my business and they were more important. So someone could interrupt me for a moment. Hey, Roger, got a minute? Sure. Let me tell you what Sally Johnson did. Yeah, tell me about that. And that would be the winner. So here I am in the dining room, in the kitchen every week, twice a week. And Sally Johnson, and I would go into glowing detail what it was that made a difference. And then I would hand Sally Johnson or whoever the winner was a $20 bill and a can of Red Bull. So for 40 bucks a week and two cans of Red Bull, do you think this improved morale? But it didn't stop there. Everyone loved this program. I would go into my office and I had a template on the computer called difference dollars. And big and bold in the corners were big stars. It would say difference dollars. And then I would type in Sally Johnson, big and bold. And then I would type in glowing detail what the difference was. I had all these frames in my office, wooden frames from Target or Walmart, the 8.5 by 11 size. And we would hang them in the kitchen and in the employee break area and in the employee bathroom and in the hallway behind the scenes. When I sold those restaurants back in 2014, there were hundreds of these things hanging everywhere. And it was so gratifying because whenever we hired a new team member and they were on a break having a soda, I couldn't help but notice they were walking the rows reading these things. And it just spoke volumes about our culture and about how we ran that restaurant. And people either fit that culture and they felt like, wow, this is a really special place to work and I want to be part of this, or they voted themselves off the island and we didn't have to fire anyone anymore. But more than likely, it kept people for a long, long time. And that's why I had people working for me for 23 years, 18 years, 15 years. You get the idea. And as I said, these people are still at my restaurants today. Okay, that was difference dollars. Gift cards. Okay, you can also get gift cards. I used to trade gift cards with different non competing, no restaurants, but other businesses in my community. And I would go to them saying, hey, I will give you 10 or 15 $25 gift cards if you give me 10 or 15 $25 gift cards. And again, pennies on the dollar. It cost me my food cost. And I would pass these out whenever someone did something extraordinary. And that went a long way. And then finally, here's a great story. I mentioned you don't ask, you don't get. A long time ago, I had a regular meeting every single year with my main suppliers. They might have been food service suppliers, liquor suppliers, beer distributors. I would always meet with them for, an annual planning session about what we could do and, how we could help promote each other. And I'm walking by a conference room in one of these suppliers, and I see all this valuable merchandise on the conference table. And I'm thinking, wow, what's that all about? So I asked the person that was giving me the tour, I'm like, what's all that stuff? And he said, we do business with lots of companies that we sell their products, and we ask them every year for prizes that we can use for employee incentives. And the only problem is, and it's a good problem to have, we get more merchandise that we can give out in our employee recognition programs, and they keep giving us this stuff. And a lot of it ends up collecting dust in the warehouse, and we don't want to just randomly pass it out. We want people to earn it. And here it is. So I said, wow, I've been doing business with you for many years and I spend lots of money with you every year. I'm like, can I have any of that stuff? I would love to start an employee recognition program in my place. And this was 30 years ago and I did it every year. The very next day, the truck shows up from that distributor, supplier, whoever it was, and all that stuff I saw on the table, it gets loaded into my restaurant. I didn't even see it coming. I had to clean out a storage closet to store it all. So what did we do? Whenever we caught someone doing something amazing, and I loved it when the person had been working there for like 15 minutes and they're really putting their head down and they're really caring and doing a great job. And I'd say, hey, let's take a trip to the closet. And the person gets all nervous and jerky. I'm like, no, 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 it's a good thing. I would open the door and I'd say, you see something you like, it's yours. And like, really, really? Wow. And you'd see electronics and you would see lots of nice clothing and wearable items and neon beer signs and even sporting goods and tennis rackets and skis. We had all this stuff, you know, and they could just walk in, find something that meant something to them and take it. And wow, if that didn't increase morale. So again, you don't ask, you don't get. Okay, empowered leaders grow your brand and your business. Let's talk about empowerment in your leadership team. Now, there's a lot of things that these people can do to build your business. I call that an exit strategy because you don't want to be tied to your business, your restaurant. If you want to be there all the time, that's your choice, but you don't want to be tied to it where you have to be there and missing your kids' soccer games and high school graduations and all the important moments in your life because you're tied to your restaurant. I've seen that far too often. So empowering your leaders to treat your business as if they owned it and had to pay for it. Now that's called being an intrapreneur. Now, maybe you've heard that word, maybe you haven't. Everyone knows that an entrepreneur is someone who takes a risk to start a business in the hopes of making a profit. And that's a challenging thing to do. And a lot of you know what that's about. But an intrapreneur is someone who is an employee of a business who treats the business as if they owned the place and had to pay for it. And they have a vested interest in growing that business. That's an intrapreneur. So, what are some of the ideas? Well, you can empower some to create a loyalty program. Maybe your GM creates a loyalty program that brings your guests in more often, or your front of house manager or your head host increases your takeout and delivery program. Your kitchen manager or your dining room leader or whoever creates a catering system in your business, or private parties and events are huge. Starting a mug club. Now, that's a huge profit center, and I had a mug club. I can tell you all about that coming up. But my bar leader started a mug club, and he started out small, 25 mugs just to see what would happen. You've been in these sports bars where you see the mugs hanging. Well, people pay a membership fee to belong to a mug club, and then you give them value added service. One, it's exclusivity, where instead of having a standard beer in a pint glass, they get like a 20-ounce mug. This isn't an example, but you get the idea. And they get 4 extra ounces of beer for the same price as someone else, a regular customer paying a 16-ounce pint for beer. Okay. And that's value added. And you can create more opportunities that way. So he brought in 25 mugs. He literally sold them out the first day. So we ordered more and more and more. When I sold that restaurant in 2014, believe it or not, he had built that mug club to 1,200 mug club members who paid us $55 every single year just to belong to the club. Now, that was free and clear cash flow. Okay. This is a needle mover, folks. And it was free and clear, meaning there were no expenses against it because I had a sponsor that would pay for the mugs and pay for the custom Mug Club t shirts and all the extra incentives that went along with the club. We just collected the membership fees. Now, that was $60,000 plus every year in free and clear cash. And what could you do with an extra 10, 15, $20,000, even $5,000? You could do so much with that if there were no costs against it. So all you have to do is give great service to your guests and treat them special. It's that Cheers formula. People want to go where everyone knows your name. So here's the kicker. We got the cash for that, right? But the kicker was people who used to come in maybe twice a month now came in two, three, and even four times a week. And they're drinking the beer and they're eating the food and they're buying our retail merchandise. And that was the foundation and built so many of my restaurants. So mug clubs are super powerful. We can teach you how to do that. I'll tell you about that at the end of the webinar. Okay, you can empower someone to keep your costs in what I call the sweet spot, your food, beverage, and labor costs, your biggest expenses. So if you keep your kitchen manager accountable for keeping your food costs in line, that makes you money. There you go. Bar leader, keeping your beverage costs in line, everyone keeping labor costs in line. Think of the money you're saving. Think of the increased profitability there. And then cash cows. Does everyone know what a cash cow is? Everyone has their own definition. A cash cow is something that makes your restaurant stand apart from the competition. It's something unique, special, and different that only you sell or only you do. Now, a cash cow is really, really powerful because you can actually give them away. Now, here's what I did. I came up with 4 or 5 cash cows. You can't have too many in your business for a couple of reasons. One, a cash cow lowers your food cost and it increases your profit. But two and three, it's a marketing tool that you can use to bring new business in. So one of my cash cows, I created a 4-color business card kind of coupon with a professional photograph of that menu item. And I went around to local businesses, again, not restaurants. It was car wash, retail stores, movie theater, that kind of thing. And I introduced myself to the owner or the general leader. And I said, "Hey, I'm Roger, and I'm opening a new restaurant." Now, I only did this when I needed to bring new business in the door, and then I didn't have to do it anymore. And I said, "You know what? If you pass these coupons out to your customers, no obligation, of course, and they come in to my restaurant, I'm going to give them a $10 appetizer for free." And I had sit down full serve restaurants. And of course, you couldn't just present the coupon and get it to take out. No, you had to sit down, you had to order a drink. But most people ordered some food. You know what the kicker was? The people that came in using these coupons, and we tracked it every single time someone used the coupon, the average check was 75 to 80 bucks. And the cost of that cash cow to me was about 28 cents. Okay. We charged $10 on the menu for this cash cow. It had value added. It had what I call wow factor. You presented it in front of the guest and it looked amazing and it smelled amazing. It was incredible appetizer. $10. We sold lots and lots of them over time, but I gave them away in the beginning and it seeded my business. 28 cents brought in 75 bucks. What did we do next? I had all these cash cows. I was at a convenience store one day, and you can be in one tomorrow or this afternoon, and there's all those rolls of lottery tickets, and I'm waiting my turn in line, and 2 people in front of me are buying these lottery tickets. And it suddenly struck me, what if I created a custom branded lottery ticket for my restaurant? It looked like a lottery ticket. It had those little scratch off squares on it. What was under every single ticket under one of those squares? A cash cow. And we came up with this great scratch and win kind of sweepstakes name and stuff. And when did we give them out? In the check presenter after the guests had paid the check, because I wanted people to come back again. If the people that brought in that original coupon had a great time, they spent 75 or $80, I knew we were going to give them great service and that our food was awesome, but I wanted to make sure I got them back and hooked them for the second time. So we put these lottery tickets that were branded, had our logo on it, our colors, scratch and win, all that fun stuff. And the servers or the bartenders would present the guest check presenter after they paid the check and said, "Hey, I hope you win. It's just something fun we're doing." And they would immediately pull out the quarter and they'd scratch it off. "Hey, I won this. I won that." They'd put them in their wallets. They'd hang it on the refrigerator under a magnet. And then we tracked those that came back. And then once again, the second visits brought in 75 to $80 check average, because very few people come in by themselves. They bring 2 people, 3 people with them. And you can see how that would work. So that's cash cows. Ordering efficiency. I don't want to get off track here. I empowered my kitchen leader to order efficiently because it costs you a lot of money with waste and spoilage and even theft if you got too much product kicking around. Their goal is to bring in just enough product based on your projected sales volume that week so that you don't run out of anything. There's no 86s, but you don't have too much inventory that's going to perish or spoil or walk out the door. That's ordering efficiently. That's turning over your merchandise, okay? I empowered her to do that. And then also she came up with weekly off the menu specials. Now it rounded out a regular menu and it gave our servers and our bussers and our bartenders and everyone something to talk about to our guests, something different and unique and special, but they were also more profitable and more expensive. We did this on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, off the menu specials, and they were super profitable. So again, all these leadership ideas were bonusable. I gave people a piece of the action if it proved to drive new business and it was profitable business. All right. Now, this is how we involve the entire staff. I mentioned earlier that you have a team of people. and they're in the trenches every day and they're in a position to see things. But if you don't ask, you don't get. They're just going to keep their head down and do their job, even though they see inefficient, sloppy things happening all around them. Maybe there's a busser that's dumping expensive silverware in the trash and the dishwasher doesn't really care, right? He's not paid to care. Or he's not treated well in most restaurants to care and to say, hey, do you know you're losing all this silverware? But if you create this culture where everybody cares, but then you incentivize people to come up with great ideas, here's where this idea came from. So I gathered people around once a month in the dining room again, but this time it was the entire team again, just like difference dollars. And I said, we had all these flip charts with dry erase markers or Sharpies or whatever it was. And I said, listen, come up with ideas. No idea is crazy. Nothing is dumb. If you have an idea or if you see something that will improve our business, it'll cut our costs, if it'll increase our sales or a new marketing idea, whatever it is, throw it out there. And I'd write it down. We'd spend a half an hour just brainstorming and I'd write all these ideas down. And I said, okay, if I can track this, I'm going to take some of these ideas, the ones that I think that are really, valuable, viable ideas, and if I can track either a cost savings or an increased profit, I'm going to give you a piece of that action for as long as you work here and as long as it continues to generate a return on investment or cut our costs. And wow, these people sang like canaries. We wrote down all these ideas and we came up with amazing ideas. And for years, these employees, I told you I had people 15, 18, 20 years. That was one of the reasons why they stuck around. One, the culture was amazing. Two, they loved working with their team members. And three, it was lucrative. They made extra money for years, even though they came up with this idea 5 or 10 years ago, because we continued to track it. That was amazing. So cost savings, new profit centers, new marketing ideas, preventative maintenance. Just an idea. It worked great for me. All right. Highest labor costs ever. What can you do? I told you about the gift cards, okay? But you can also trade for services in your business. I love trade. It's like I never wanted to pay dollars for anything. It's like landscaping services, linen services, dumpster services. If you've got small independent businesses, they love to go out to eat and they love the opportunity to come into your restaurant and just sign the check, right? Well, that's trade. So you don't ask, you don't get. Ask some of your suppliers if you can trade for their services. Also, trading gift cards for gift cards. I told you about that because it's pennies on the dollar. Okay. Cash cows make a lot of money for your restaurant. That'll give you extra money to pay your high labor costs. And then maximizing profit on every sale is the biggest needle mover. And I'm going to dive into that in detail. But every food and every beverage you sell, you need to maximize profit on it. Be resourceful, turn over every rock. All right, let's dive into the true meaning of hospitality. I told you about that. Don't forget it. I train my staff every single day. Hospitality is missing when something happens to your guests. Hospitality is present when something happens for the guest. They feel it. It's special. It's a personal touch. And everyone who interacts with a guest should make them feel special and thank them for coming in and invite them back again. All right. Know that your guests, your customers, I like to use the word guests, aren't just coming in for the food. They might think that's why they're dining out in your restaurant, but it's really up to you to give them an experience. Maybe it was a special occasion. They're looking for that experience. But more often than not, they didn't feel like cooking, or it was lunchtime or dinner time, and they just happened to be driving by and, hey, there's a place, let's stop in. And they don't know the first thing about it. It's up to every member of your team to deliver amazing dining experiences, not just food and drink. This is a true story. If you went back in time 30 years ago, I'm starting my very first wood fired pizzeria. And I had to buy a dough mixer because we were going to, make our own dough fresh every single day, make our own sauces. I needed a dough mixer. I found one in another state. It was a used piece of equipment a long time ago. And I remember going off to check out this piece of equipment. And there was a sandwich board sign at the end of this road. And it said, wood fired pizza now serving. And I'm like, terrific. That's exactly the kind of restaurant that I'm looking for, that I'm going to open in a couple of weeks. I'm like 3 weeks out from the grand opening. So I pulled into the parking lot and I walked in the door. I'm thinking, I'm going to learn something. My very first impression, I walk through the door, there's a host podium up a short hallway, and there's a teenager, and he's leaning on the podium like this. And you'd think it as soon as I walk through the door, he'd be like, professional, ready to greet someone. Nope, he's just leaning. And as I'm getting closer, there's a menu holder on the side of the podium, and I can see that. And he keeps leaning, and as I get closer, he's blowing bubble gum, and he's blowing bubbles with his bubble gum. I'm like, wow, strike one. What a negative impression. When I get to the host podium, he says to me, he's like, "Are you here for lunch?" He's still leaning. I'm like, "Yeah, it's lunchtime. It's about 12:10. I'm here for lunch." Next thing I know, he pulls out one of those menus out of the menu holder. He sticks it in my hand, and then he points across the room. He's like, "See that table over there? It's yours." He didn't even have the courtesy to walk me to the table, see if I was comfortable, tell me something about the restaurant, tell me who was going to be serving me. Nope, handed me the menu, pointed at the table, go sit over there. And then he goes back to leaning on the podium. I'm thinking, wow, what horrible training. Does the owner even know that this person is? What a negative impression, right? Okay, so now I'm sitting at the table. I had the menu. I had like so much time to look at it. And I remember gauging on my watch. It was literally 9 minutes that I'm sitting there, and I had plenty of time to look at the menu. But service people are passing me by on the left and they're passing me by on the right, and no one is making eye contact with me. And I'm thinking to myself, do they care that I'm sitting here? Do they know that I'm here? Who's going to come over and take a drink order and help me out? 9 minutes later, a server finally gets to me. And like I said, I looked at the menu. There were probably 8 or 10 specialty pizzas, all with funky names on them. And I looked at the server and I said, what's your favorite? What can you recommend? They all sound pretty good to me. And the server looked me in the eye for the first time and she says, I can't recommend the pizza. She's like, I don't eat them. They're too expensive. Whoa. I just about fell off my chair. Remember, I'm opening my restaurant in 3 weeks, and I suddenly realized what the staff say and do can absolutely sabotage your business if they're not trained to serve and sell. True story. Now, I've told this story hundreds of times. I'm not in the habit of naming names and I don't slam the restaurant, but I've told this story. But know that your customers, when they have a bad experience, they're going to they're going to be all over the internet. All those online reviews, they could crush your business, and they're going to tell everybody they know, don't go to that place. Now, a long time ago, 30 years ago, there was no internet. There were no online reviews. It was simply word of mouth, and that was bad enough for this place. I'm sure they were giving these experiences to everyone else, but it's like, wow, you can't afford to do this today. That's why you have to train your staff to serve and sell, that true hospitality I talked about. All right. This I called capturing lightning in a bottle. It's like that eureka moment when staff, your guests, are in the restaurant and staff are having more fun and making more money, then your guests are having more fun and spending more money. It's like contagious. People having a great time. They're more receptive to suggestions and they just want to know what's great, what's special, what's unique. And if the staff are trained in product and restaurant knowledge, and they're delivering this through education, information, and entertainment, because this business is show business, guests are having more fun and spending more money. All right. I don't like mission statements. We talked about having a company culture, but in this case, again, it's show business, it's entertainment. When guests walk through your door, your mission, everybody's mission is to educate, inform, and entertain. I wanted to put emphasis on that because it's so important and it made such a difference for me. I also hate the word order taker. You know what an order taker is. Now, I travel the country quite a bit. I speak at national food shows and I'm all on the road quite a bit. I eat out in a variety of restaurants, and it doesn't matter what the price point is. 9 times out of 10, I get the order taker, and they got the pad and the pen. And it's like they give you a menu and they expect you to see what sounds good and what do you have? And they write it down, they bring the food. Obviously, they give you the check at the end of the meal. What an ordinary experience that is. For me, it was all about product and restaurant knowledge and daily training so that my staff knew what's special, what's unique, what are the cash cows, what are people going to enjoy and appreciate. That doubled and tripled my check averages, and it delivered amazing dining experiences, not ordinary ones. All right, maximizing return on investment. Okay, recognize as the owner of a restaurant, every seat, as a GM or a general leader in your restaurant, every seat is valuable real estate. Now, owners of businesses are taking all the risks, okay? And you're providing staff an instant opportunity to make money without risk. You're paying the lease on the property or the mortgage. You're paying the food and beverage and labor costs and the insurance and the dumpster and the internet and the linen, and the costs go on and on and on. And you're sticking your neck out in a low margin business. And hopefully, this webinar is giving you ideas to increase your profit. But why then wouldn't you expect your staff to knowledgeably promote your business, be brand ambassadors for your business, and train them to maximize opportunities and sales to build your business? All right. It's a captive audience, folks. You know what that means. Unlike retail stores, and this is not a slam on any other owner or GM here who owns a retail store, but I never wanted to own a retail business because one, not every single person that comes in the door is going to buy, right? Unless you know specifically that this store sells what you're looking for and you're going in there to buy just that. Let's take a ladies' clothing store, for example. How many times do women walk into a clothing store just to browse? And the clerk or the owner would say, "Can I help you?" And the answer is, "No, thanks. I'm just looking. And if I find something, I might ask you a question, but I'm just looking." And then 10 minutes later, they walk out. And people come in and out of the door every day, and you're hopeful you're going to make a sale, but not everybody buys something. I would not want to own a business like that. But in a restaurant, every person that walks in your door is ready, willing, and able to buy. You know they're going to spend money. It's a captive audience. So why wouldn't you then train your staff to assume the sale? That's what it's about. Opportunity. I'm an opportunist. I've always looked for opportunity, and I hope you do too. Opportunity is fickle and fleeting. Every guest in your restaurant represents a series of opportunities from the start of the meal to the end of the meal. Even the kids are opportunities, every stage of the meal, every time. And if your service team, your service and sales team, your bartenders, your servers, your hosts, your bussers, anyone who can make recommendations, if they miss those recommendations, that opportunity is lost forever. And that's why your bank account is staying flat instead of rising. All right, where to find hidden opportunities. I want you to close your eyes for just a second and imagine an iceberg floating on the surface of the ocean. You got that iceberg in mind? I'll show you where I'm going with this. Open your eyes. Okay, look on top of the water. That's that huge iceberg you just imagined. It sank the Titanic, right? Well, I consider that, I call that daily sales in your restaurant that just happened because the guest walks in, you give them a menu, they look and see what sounds good to them, and the order taker, yeah, what'll you have? They write it down, they bring the food, deliver the check, right? But below the surface, very few people realize that the largest part of an iceberg is actually hidden and unseen beneath the water. Look at the size difference. And that's why I love this analogy because in the restaurant, same thing. All the hidden opportunities, if you're not training your team in product and restaurant knowledge, chances are they're missing all these opportunities. Upsells. What's an example of an upsell? If you have a full liquor bar and someone orders a gin and tonic, the upsell is, would you prefer Bombay Sapphire or Tanqueray 10? Would you prefer is assuming the sale, and it's selling a premium product that might add $6, $7 to the check just by virtue of that liquor being a premium product. Add-ons. Every restaurant worth its salt has add-ons, things that enhance the meal. Caesar salad is a great example. Would you prefer scallops, chicken, or shrimp on that Caesar salad? It's an amazing add-on, okay? And someone will say, wow, that sounds great. Or if you sell steak, sauteed mushrooms and onions could be an add-on. Specialty rubs or sauces could be an add-on. Salads that you add cheese to. Would you prefer feta cheese or blue cheese, gorgonzola, or goat cheese? That adds to the check average and it improves the salad, right? Most profitable items, we're going to get to that because that is the biggest needle mover we're going to talk about. But your team need to know what your most profitable items are so they can suggest them. That's what rings the cash register. That's what builds your bank account, the cash cows. You get the idea. I love bottles of wine. It's like having an extra person at the table that doesn't require any extra service or effort, anywhere from $25 to $50 and even more in some upscale restaurants. And you just sell a bottle of wine. It's a beautiful thing. And people still order their favorite beer or cocktail after the bottle of wine because it's a conversation starter. It just naturally enhances the meal. Desserts go without saying, but coffee drinks, lots of people drink coffee. I'm drinking a cup right now. When was the last time you went to a restaurant and the server at the end of the meal said, would you like Kahlua or Bailey's and Jameson's and a cup of coffee, maybe with a dollop of whipped cream and some chocolate shavings on top? It's the perfect end to your meal. And wow, that $3 cup of coffee just went to $9 or even more by virtue of adding Jameson's or a liquor to it. That's an upsell as well and an opportunity. Retail merchandise. I told you at the beginning of this webinar, don't run a restaurant, run a business and build a brand. If you do this, and if your place has an aura, an image, and it's a draw for your customers, your guests, then suddenly you can sell lots of retail merchandise where people will pay you to advertise your business. Wearables like t-shirts and hats and even flasks with your logo on it that people like to put brandy in, or any kind of merchandise at all that's an impulse item and people sell them. We used to have the t-shirts on our staff as uniforms and they would sell themselves because we had all these really unique designs and it's very profitable and it's another way to raise the check average. Now, not every restaurant can do this, but if you can, if you have a liquor bar, of course, you can bring in a musician for a couple of hours and it's very cost effective and it keeps people eating and drinking longer and entertains them and it pays for itself. We had rock bands 3 nights a week. We had acoustic musicians. Some restaurants are successful with a comedy show, a special event. You get the idea, but live events. Now, all of those things I call the domain of the sales star because if they didn't know about them and if they weren't well trained to suggest them, all these are opportunities left on the table. It's costing your business thousands of dollars a week if your staff are not trained to serve and sell. All right. Don't be an order taker. One of my pet peeves was people, and when I go out to eat in restaurants, a pet peeve of mine is when someone asks what I call the yes no question. Does anyone want dessert? Would you like coffee? Can I bring you anything else? The answer most likely is no thanks, please bring the check. Why? Because you've got a 50-50 chance when you present a yes no question that the guest is going to say yes, and a 50% chance that they're going to say no. Those are terrible odds. How do you increase the odds of making a sale? You give choices. Choices improve your odds of making the sale. Now, let's talk about desserts here. I'm going to use these desserts as my choices. Imagine that choice A is the raspberry cream disaster, and choice B is the chocolate peanut butter blast. And then the third choice is no. Notice that all three of these things has an equal likelihood that the guest is going to say, oh, A sounds good, or B sounds good, or no. All three of those add up to 100%, don't they? Suddenly, by giving two choices, A and B, you just doubled your odds of making the sale. Now the odds, instead of 50-50, are 66.6% chance versus 33% no. You just doubled your odds of making the sale by bringing two choices to the guest's attention and describing them in amazing detail that makes them see it, smell it, and taste it before it even comes out of the kitchen. You've made the sale. All right, here's the most important part of this webinar. Have you costed your menu? Do you know your profit item by item in every single category? Now, when I consult with restaurants, this is the second question I ask them. Besides, what business are you in? Do you know your item profit? What items are most profitable? Most of the time they can say, oh, if I took this off the menu, my guests would kill me, or this flies out of the kitchen. No, what are your most profitable items? And suddenly you can see the gears kind of grind to a halt and they scratch their head. They can't answer that most cases. It's so important now, especially during inflation and rising costs, to know exactly what your profit is on every single menu item in every single category, because you could actually be losing money on selling certain things. But as you're going to see, there are certain items that'll take profit away from what you could be selling. All right. And here's where I'm going with this. First of all, this is a template that's available at the end of the webinar. Everything that I've talked about today is in a turnkey system called the Restaurant Academy, but this is called the menu item plate cost template. All right. It's a simple spreadsheet that automatically calculates. Now, know that it takes a little bit of homework to do this, but I teach you exactly how to do it. If you have invoices from your suppliers or even the order guide, that's everything you order from a supplier, you can sort of reverse engineer every dish, figure out what quantity of ingredient goes on every dish based on how it comes in your door and what you pay for it. And if you figure out the simple math and plug it in here, this will automatically calculate the cost, the ingredient cost of every ingredient. So this is a pizza, a really popular pizza place in my hometown. My kids love this pizza. It's probably their most favorite. It's called the mashed potato pizza, and it's got bacon and scallion on it and a couple different kinds of cheeses. But you can see at the top, there's dough in that pizza, and they have an 8-ounce dough ball. and they figured out that it cost them 2 cents an ounce for the dough ball, just for the dough for the pizza. And all the way to the right, this automatically calculates 16 cents cost in the dough. And then there's oil, and then there's a couple kinds of cheeses. There's the Asiago cheese, there's the mozzarella, there's 4 ounces of mozzarella on the cheese. They figured out it cost them 18 cents an ounce to put that mozzarella, and now you got 72 cents cost for the cheese. And it goes down the line, red sauce, potato, bacon, scallion. But notice also at the very bottom that they included the cost of a pizza box, because this place is a takeout only place. So therefore, there's a cost involved in giving the customer the box to take the pizza out, 38 cents. Now this template automatically calculates adds up all those ingredient costs, and you'll see plate cost total 3/4 of the way down. It costs this restaurant $2.80 in ingredients only, not labor, to sell this pizza. They charge $18 menu costs to the guest. Okay, the simple math is automatically calculated here. When you divide $2.80 plate cost by the price you charge the customer, $18, it gives you a 16% food cost. But the most important item here is the very bottom line. What is the profit on this item? $15.20 every time you sell one. Now, when you have categories, and the categories are appetizers in most cases, soups and salads is a category, sandwiches, burgers, that kind of thing is a category. Meals or entrees, of course, and then desserts. These are all categories. You need one of these for every single item arranged by your categories. And the next thing you need to do, and again, this is all in a simple template, plus we explain it in a video for you. You rank everyone in each category from most to least profitable. So now you've got all these cost sheets separated by categories, ranked from the most profitable to the least profitable. I'll show you what we're going to do with it next. Okay, now this looks a little busy, but I'm going to go slow and explain it. Now this is the final template that I include in my academy. It's called the menu cost profit analysis. Now, once you've got all of your items costed out and ranked in terms of profitability, look at the top in green. Now this is just the entree spreadsheet, okay? Aside from all the other categories, this is the entree only. The number one most profitable entree that this restaurant sold was the seafood stuffed shrimp, and every time they sold one, they made $17.88 profit. Now, in descending order, from most profitable to second most profitable to third most profitable to last most profitable, you can see it goes down on the left side. Under in red, where it says profit spread, this is how much money is being lost or left behind by selling the number 2, the number 3, and so on and so forth. So go down about 3/4, and really big and bold in red, you'll see number 8. This is the 8th most profitable entree, but every time they sold this, they lost a potential profit of $6.24 against what they could be selling above that. Then if they sold the number 7, they would make more profit. If they sold the number 4, they would make more profit. And again, if they sold the number 1, they're making $6.24 more. You get where I'm going with this. This was the number 2 most popular item, the chicken cordon bleu. They sold 1,805 of these. And now in red, you can see profit lost all the way to the right. Now, this is the amount of potential profit lost every time one of those items sold. And then the bottom line at the bottom was $45,500 and change was left on the table last year in potential profit, simply because lower profit items were taking lots and lots of sales away from most profitable or more profitable items. Now, I know not everybody's going to order the seafood stuffed shrimp, but the point I'm making here is it is absolutely possible to redesign your menu where you're losing pennies and not dollars. Every time you sell an appetizer, you could be losing $3, $4, and more if this sells versus your more profitable items, okay? Entree side, you can see here, this restaurant lost up to $7.66. I've seen it go as high as $13 profit loss in certain restaurants I've worked with. So this is an actual example of a client I worked with, and they were a $2.9 million restaurant in annual sales. If you added up all these categories, they were open for both lunch and dinner, and they had different categories for all of their meal parts, lunch and dinner. The bottom line was, of that $2 million in total sales, they left a potential profit of $363,000. on the table simply because the spread in each category was many, many dollars and not pennies. Now, I don't care if you're losing 90 cents, a dollar here, 85 cents, so what? You don't want to be losing 3, 4, 7, 10, $12 and more every time something sells versus what you could be selling. Once you figure this out, what an eye opener. This template can show you where you're losing money every single day so you can tighten up that menu. But what do you do in the short term? Simplify the menu. If you've got low profit, low sale items, get rid of it. Portion controls are super important. Let me go back 30 years ago. I opened that wood-fired pizzeria. I'm open a couple of weeks and I'm standing on the pizza line watching my pizza makers make pizza. And we had one size pizza only because it's the way they do it authentically in Italy. It was a personal 12-inch pizza. So every pizza was essentially the same size. And I'm noticing every time somebody makes a pepperoni pizza, I had three different pizza makers. One person put 10 slices of pepperoni on the pizza. I watched the person to the right of them make a pepperoni pizza and I count the slices. There's 12 on that one. The next person does 13 or 14. I'm like, what's up here? I went to my kitchen leader and I'm like, Tina, I'm like, how many slices? What does the recipe call for? She's like, 10 slices of pepperoni. Every time this person and that person made a pepperoni pizza, I'm losing 2 or 3 slices of pepperoni from what should be on that pizza, times hundreds of pizzas a week. How much is that increasing my food cost and decreasing my profit? Portion control standards. So there should be a recipe card for every single item that you sell with instructions on how to make it and a photograph of what it should look like, the presentation. And then you need checks and balances, like me standing on the line watching. You can watch. Your general leader can watch. Your servers can watch. Train everybody to know what something should look like. I even had servers that would put 2 scoops of ice cream on a pie a la mode just because they thought their tip would be higher. Portion controls. Okay, ingredient choices. You don't ask, you don't get. I've said that multiple times today. I had suppliers and I would say they knew what I was selling. And I would go to them knowing that these large, huge suppliers have economies of scale. They spend millions of dollars bringing in product. And sometimes they get a huge deal on something and therefore they pay less for it and you can pay less for it versus what you're selling. So they knew what I was selling now, but I would go to them every couple of weeks and I'd say, okay, you know what I'm selling now? Did you bring in anything new that I could get for a better price, provided the quality and my specs are the same? Because I never wanted my guests to think we were skimping on quality. I didn't want them to be able to taste something different. I wanted consistency. So they would say, yeah, we brought in this product and we could save you $1.50 a pound if you trade this for that. I'm like, great. I want to try a sample first and I want to make sure we're going to do a taste test. And if it tastes just as good or better, I'll bring that product in. Again, you don't ask, you don't get. This is how you save money in the restaurant business, folks. Okay. Ingredient choices. We switched ingredients all the time, provided our quality was there and it met our specs. I told you earlier that you train your staff in your most profitable items right off the bat so that they suggest these at the table, every time. That increases your profit. We already talked about cash cows and off the menu specials. Gently raise prices when you have to on the items that are not making you any money. When you figure out that you're losing so much money on these really, really popular items, you know the market will bear a price increase. They're still going to buy it because they love it. Communicate to your customers what's happening out there. People know that they're paying higher prices at the gas pump and in the supermarket today, but when they go out to dinner, they're not thinking that your costs have gone up. You have to tell them, I so appreciate your business. Thank you for continuing to patronize my business. Yes, our costs are going up, and occasionally we have to raise prices. Where nobody's getting rich here. We just want to continue to offer value and great service to you. So thank you for coming in. That's communication. We did that all the time. And then go back to the drawing board. I told you you can redesign your menu where everything contributes a similar profit. Again, less than $1, but certainly not multiple dollars. This is going to make you a lot of money. It's a needle mover. It's something that you can control versus inflation and high labor costs that you cannot control. All right, daily break even. We're almost at the end here, but this is vitally important. You know, with this labor shortage and problem that people have had staffing the restaurants, you have to continue to offer value to your guests for what they're paying for. But when you're short staffed, it's really hard to do that. And sometimes you got to figure out, hey, it doesn't make sense to be open on a Monday or a Tuesday. And you might know that, But unless you do this exercise, you might not know which day makes the most sense to close, if you close at all. You need to know your daily break even. Now, this is simple accounting, folks, but know that either in the cloud or in your office, you got an old fashioned file cabinet. It's full of invoices. Wherever you store your invoices, you may never look at them. You might have an office manager or even send it off to your CPA, but you need to assemble two different kinds of expenses. Pull all your invoices out. Know that the fixed costs must be paid whether your business is open or closed. It doesn't care if you're open 2 days a week, 5 days a week, or 7 days a week. You pay the same amount of money every month. Things like the lease on your space or your mortgage, your insurance, your licenses, the repairs on your business, your telephone bill, your internet, the dumpsters in the parking lot. You gotta have a dumpster in your parking lot for the trash and the cardboard, whether you're open 5 days, 7 days, or closed entirely. Those are fixed costs. We're going to list all those things on a monthly basis. How much do you pay for these every single month? Variable costs are the things that go up and down based on your open days and your volume, okay? Things like your payroll. Obviously, your payroll is a lot less if you're open 5 days a week versus if you're open 7 days a week. Same with your cost of goods, your food and beverage, your heating oil in cold states, electricity and utilities. You get it, okay? All right, once you've got a list of all these things broken out by fixed costs and variable costs on a monthly basis, the template in the Academy that's available to you will automatically calculate your break even. It divides that full list by 30, and that gives you a number. Maybe it's $1,200 a month. Maybe it's $5,000, I'm sorry, a day. Maybe it's $5,000 a day if you've got a humongous 15,000 square foot restaurant. You get the idea. What is the bottom line? What does it mean? It means that on a Monday, if your sales are not at that number, whether it's $1,200, $2,000, or whatever, consistently week after week, then you're going to lose less money by closing the doors than actually opening the doors, hoping for the best. If you serve 5 customers and it costs you $2,000 a day and you bring in the people and you got the food, you're losing more money than if you just close. That's important. All right. Let me tell you about our podcast. Absolutely free to you. It's on every major podcast player, but better yet, you can get it in your email inbox every week. And we won't spam you, but we will send you the podcast. And you can either watch it like you're watching me face to face because it's released as a video, or you can listen while you're walking the dog or driving to work. We get some of the leading operators across the country on our podcast. And we get celebrities. You can see on the phone here, that's John Taffer from that hit TV show Bar Rescue. He was an amazing guest. We had the Restaurant Equippers folks on talking all about the ins and outs of buying equipment and value and the quality of the suppliers and the extensive variety and how they shop the world for the best deals for you. They were on the podcast. So if you like podcasts, it's free, but go to my website, restaurantrockstars.com, and on any page, you can simply give us your email address. Again, we won't spam you, but you'll get the podcast every single week. You can watch, you can listen. Let me tell you about the Academy now. Everything I talked about, all the concepts and even more, is available in one turnkey tool called the Restaurant Academy. It's a logistics section. If you're watching this and you're a brand new operator or you're just opening or thinking of opening a restaurant, it's everything you would need to know to open the doors and run that business profitably. That's logistics. Everything you can think of. It's everything I've learned in 30 years in this business. Marketing, super powerful. All the things we talked about, cash cows, mug clubs, how to put all this in place in your business, turnkey template on all of those things. And best of all, these are trackable marketing programs, the coupons, the lottery tickets, it's all in there, everything I talked about. We have staff training called Sales Stars. How do you train every member of your team in hospitality, family, and fun, making suggestions and increasing your sales? That's in there. Additional profit centers, how to put a catering program in place, all these things. Additional profit centers are super important, not just selling food and drink. Okay, these are 80 lessons. Now, the best part about it is it's not a course. It's like you don't have to follow it from point A to point B. You decide what your priority is. What is most important to you? Do you need to put the financial controls in place? Cost out your menu, figuring out the menu profit, the daily break even, the food, beverage, and labor costs, the inventory. It's all here. If that's important, go there first. If marketing is important, go there. Training your staff is super important. Go there first. You don't have to follow this in order. You decide the priorities. Next best of all is you can now give access to up to 25 people in your business to run your business, to help you run the business, to learn. Remember, I said empower your team to create new profit centers, to run your business as if they owned it. You can give them access to any of this material, and you can watch their progress in your own dashboard. You can see, I told this person to, put a catering system in place, or figure out some off the menu specials, or figure out the daily break even, or the cost of goods, whatever it is. There you go. You can watch and see that they actually did it. And then the recognition and rewards programs, it's all there. Now, this is a really, really inexpensive program. Okay. It's $59 per month, and you can cancel at any time. There's no obligation, but it's just full of everything you can possibly think of. So if you contact Restaurant Equippers, there's also a special QR code in their catalog. You can save 15% off on the Academy. So I definitely hope you get the Academy. Thank you so much for listening. Again, everything is at restaurantrockstars.com. Glad you're here. Have a wonderful day.